And good afternoon. Welcome to We Believe Digital Newsbreak on Wednesdays and Fridays at 12 noon. My name is Chris Young. Pulled together a bunch of different stories today. We're coming to you from downtown Jackson, Mississippi, 73 degrees and a light rain right now, expected to turn into thunderstorms very quickly, and going to rain out. Looks like the rest of the day going to rain out. So we're glad to have you joining us. We do have a call-in number, 1-800-492-5186, or you can join us in the chat, and I'll get informed on comments that you have in the coming up in the chat. And when we look at the global news, I was looking at Reuters news service this morning, and a pretty extensive piece about this rollout of new regulations at the border. You know, very controversial subject. We're a nation of immigrants, and yet we have sometimes as many as 10,000 people a day coming to us from other countries, Central American countries, coming to us through other countries and then through Mexico to come to us. And so effective tomorrow, the COVID regulations that had relaxed some of that migration expire. And so the U.S. government rolled out the new regulation today, goes into effect tomorrow. It's very much the same thing like had been released in the month of February about what the plan was. And the plan is to do this, is to deny asylum to most immigrants that are crossing the U.S.-Mexico border illegally. A key part of Joe Biden's enforcement plan as the COVID-19 border restrictions known as Title 42 end tomorrow. So this new regulation is based on this. It creates a new presumption that migrants arriving at the border are ineligible for asylum if they pass through other nations on their way to the U.S. and they didn't stop along the way at those other nations and try to seek protection elsewhere before coming here. So if they fail to, or if they fail to use the legal pathways that are available for U.S. entry. So like I said, most days as many as 10,000 border apprehensions, people trying to cross illegally. And the processing facility that they have for folks was designed to hold about 18,000 migrants. It now houses up to 28,000 people. So big changes coming on there. We're not exactly sure how folks are going to respond to that. There's talk of some 1,500 military supporting the Border Patrol folks at the classic entry points. So we'll just have to see how this pans out. It's a very sticky subject. A lot of people have very strong opinions on it. Again, we're a nation of immigrants, and yet is there ever a time when you draw the line? When do you draw the line? And I mean, with all the things that we have going on in America, it sure does tell you something about what's going on in other countries when people are risking their lives to come here to us, despite the chaos that goes on here and the mass gun deaths that are happening on a day in, day out basis, and yet these folks are easily willing to take that risk. So it really tells you something about us and about other countries as well. You know, last weekend we had this Texas mall shooter, Mauricio Garcia. Come to find out from several sources this morning, you know, that he had entered the military in 2008, but they didn't keep him. He didn't make it through basic training in the Army to become an infantryman. There was an adjustment disorder that was placed on him. He was having great difficulties, and they kicked him out. They didn't let him stay in basic training. That was 2008. And now he's 33 years old or something like that. Last weekend, killed 8 people, including children, in this mall in Allen, Texas, including a 3-year-old. Shot and killed a 3-year-old. 4 weapons were found at the scene, including an AR-15 style rifle. 5 others were found in his car. All sorts of right-wing social media posts on a Russian website were found, and it looks like he was just using this website to record his life. There wasn't really any exchange or interchange with other people. He was just posting information up there. There was nobody liking it or sharing it or anything like that. I don't know the ins and outs of all that, but that's what's been reported. And then a final post the day before he went on this rampage, dated Saturday, he lamented what his family might say. He had those information where he had reconned the mall, did Google searches and aerial views, and attempted to discover how many people would be there, what their busiest times of day were at the mall. All that sort of stuff was found on the devices after the fact. But in the last post that he made, he lamented what his family might say, and wrote that no psychologist would have been able to fix him. So very sad commentary. 8 people, including 3 children. Little children. Stuff like this happening on a day in, day out basis in our country today. And the Senate is deadlocked about any kind of gun legislation. The House, earlier in the year, passed legislation, not going to solve everything, but definitely help with all this going on. And yet the Senate just won't do it. And, they use the filibuster, meaning that instead of a 50-50 vote or broken by the vice president, making it 51-50, instead of that type of approach, when you implement the filibuster, you have to have 60 votes. And they're saying that they can't come up with those votes in the Senate. So what is that telling us? It tells us that lots of those people are on the take from the NRA. They get financial contributions to maintain their allegiance and not to vote for any forms of gun control, especially the banning of the AR-15 style rifle, which brings in multi-million dollars a year. And so these guys stay, hard and fast, and they don't. And in the meantime, our children, our fellow citizens, and our children are dying every single day in America. Obviously, the senators are not the ones pulling the triggers, but they're ones that create an environment for this to continue, for people that are quite obviously ill to get access to weapons and to get access to hordes and hordes of ammunition and go on these shooting sprees. So tough situation. And what's going to have to happen, before it will change? That's becomes the key question, it seems like. Also on the national front, this Representative George Santos, I guess by now we've all heard of this guy. Well, he surrendered to federal authorities yesterday when it was announced that he was being charged, taken into custody yesterday morning in a Long Island courthouse. DOJ unsealed a 13-count federal indictment against him. He's being scheduled to be arraigned right about now in Long Island or Manhattan, somewhere in up there. Charges against him. Remember, this guy he would say some bizarre stuff. Lied about his ethnicity and funding and prior college experience and so forth. Charged with 7 counts of wire fraud, 3 counts of money laundering, 1 count of theft of public funds, and 2 counts of making materially false statements to the House of Representatives, according to the DOJ. So, yeah, I mean, I just don't get that. I don't understand how a guy like that. Now, earlier in the year, he volunteered. I mean, what, a month or 6 weeks after he took office, he volunteered to step down from the committees that he'd been assigned to. Is still able to vote, but certainly not now while he's in custody. So we'll have to see how that turns out. Just bizarre. And yesterday in Manhattan, a 9-member jury finds former President Trump civilly liable for battery, sexual abuse, and defamation, and awards $5 million to the plaintiff. So, and then Trump goes on social media and denies that he ever even knew the woman, whose name is E. Jean Carroll. And a lot of people are responding different ways. Some say, well, this is the beginning of the end for him, and other people say, don't count on it. He always finds a way to wiggle out of things. So we'll just have to see, the Trump saga. Consumer price growth falls below 5% for the first time in 5 years. So, and that includes the cost of foods. Food prices are up. Don't have to really tell you this. Food prices up 7.7% over the last 12-month period. However, last month they did actually decline about a percentage point. So things going on with that, and so that's a good sign that it's fallen below 5% for the first time in 2 years. But there's still a lot of folks out there saying that we still got rocky times ahead with the economy, and we'll see. We'll have to see how that goes too. So, and it's the same thing holds true with gas prices. We've reported to you before that the major gas companies making ungodly billions of dollars a year as you and I pay so much more at the pump. I know where I typically gas up around Jackson, those prices had gone over $3 and then fell back down again, then came back up a bit, and now it seems like they're steadily declining. I know over the weekend I got a chance to fill up in Clinton, and it was a full 25 cents cheaper per gallon than on High Street in Jackson. So not sure exactly how that works. I thought in the more rural areas it was more money, but not the way it is. Also gassed up in Byram sometimes on Sywell Road, that first Circle K or whatever it is, sometimes a lot cheaper there. So we'll keep an eye on the food prices and the gas prices and see what's going on as these employment reports come in this time every month, and this consumer consumer price growth index gets released at this time every month. So we'll just have to see where we go with there. Just about ready to head out at the end of the first segment, and but we'll tell you, here we are again, another day in Mississippi with no Republican legislators, no Republican elected officials, no top 3 leaders in the state, all Republican, not one of them calling for hearings or using their power to implement hearings over this TANF scandal. Some say upwards of $100 million. Other folks are saying it caps out at about $77 million, but nonetheless, stealing from the poor, federal funds earmarked for the poorest people in the poorest state, the poorest families in the poorest state in the nation, and they turn that money into a slush fund for volleyball courts and fitness trainers and boot camps and just extravagant things that have nothing to do with serving poor people. And will they be held to account? Well, we'll see. But the fact that these folks don't see it clearly in their mind that they need to go out of their way to hold these people account tells us so much about them. They're really not for us at all. So we'll dip out here and we'll be back with you after a couple of quick commercials.
Looking for the hottest content in the city of Jackson and surrounding areas? Check out WeBelieveDigital.com. Also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. We Believe Digital Podcast is here for all your podcasting needs.
The Mississippi Link is an African-American female-owned newspaper with a trusted voice that is highly respected throughout the city, state, and nation. Our motto, keepers of the knowledge for people who speak the truth, since 1993. Link significantly influences the thoughts, attitudes, and buying decisions of its readers. Call us at 601-368-8481 for your advertising needs. If you would like to receive a newspaper in the mail each week, our annual subscription is only $52 per year. That is only $1 per week for you to stay informed regarding many stories that you can only get in the Mississippi Link. Sign up today at themississippilink.com and click on Home Delivery.
Welcome back to We Believe Digital Newsbreak. So glad you're joining us today. We just covered a few global stories in the first segment, and then at the national level, and now we're down into Mississippi. Want to report to you, we're always talking about that TANF scandal and what people are doing and what they're not doing about that TANF scandal. And a couple days ago, I guess was on Monday, it was reported that Anna Wolf, the Back Channel, the creator of the Back Channel at Mississippi Today online newspaper, was awarded the Pulitzer Prize. Of course, the newspaper was at the same time. She got the prize for her local journalism. The Pulitzer, that's big stuff. And just a few days before that, she had been awarded the Nellie Bly Award. This is the young woman, 28 years old, that and she was younger then when she did it, that uncovered this whole welfare fraud embezzlement. This young woman, who I've met and spoken with, is just a very special human being. She it comes from the west from Tacoma, Washington. All her journalistic work experience, though, is here in Mississippi. And she is just tenacious. And she will not be deterred. And she's got this brain on her. She just thinks this stuff through and finds ways to approach to get the information that's needed. So many public records requests, ties people up in knots. Got an interview with Phil Bryant and got him to release, these text messages that now, just ties people up in knots, getting to the truth. And so we're just so proud of her to receive such a prestigious award, such a young age, delightful young woman, really listens when you speak with her, and really got a great heart, and really focused on justice and poverty issues. Congrats, Anna Wolf. On a sad note, it looked like the feds have charged a longtime state representative, Earl Banks, with felony tax evasion. So apparently, he claimed his money from one or two sources, but apparently, as is reported in Mississippi Today, there was a property sale of about $500,000 that didn't get reported to the feds. That's what this is all about. He has an attorney, Rob McDuff, exceptional attorney, and he said that we've been talking to the IRS, and we've talked to the other local folks, and we're trying to work this all out. The man made a mistake. It was not a willful or intentional thing. So we'll see how how this transpires. Interestingly enough, in reading the article about this, I learned that most times if you become a convicted felon, and he's not, he's just charged. But interestingly, if you become a convicted felon, you got to step down from your seat in the House of Representatives or the Mississippi Senate, with the exception of a rule, I think it's Rule 44, where if the felony has to do with taxes, the other rules don't apply. So they've carved out an exception. If you're found guilty of something like this, it's still okay to serve. So imagine what would have happened in order for them to create that rule, and so how that works. So we'll see what happens with State Representative Earl Banks. He's been in there since, I want to say, 93 or 94. Been in office a very long time. In Holly Springs, Alliance Healthcare System has just received a very unique designation. So, they're considered rural, even though they're 50 miles from Memphis. It's considered a rural area, and they received a designation yesterday from the Centers for what they call CMS, for the Centers for Medicare Medicaid Services, received a designation as a rural emergency hospital, and that will open them up to different funding and so forth. And so 50 miles southeast of Memphis, that's still going to be a long ways from here, but much closer to parts of the Delta and parts of northeast Mississippi to be able to have an emergency designated hospital nearby. So when we hear about all these hospitals closing, different services being scaled back or eliminated at different hospitals, and that's been going on for some time and appears will continue to go on in this state that's ranked 50th in healthcare quality. Here is a bright spot against an otherwise dim healthcare picture in Mississippi. Alliance Healthcare in Holly Springs. Another story, in a manner of speaking, related, overdose deaths, and oftentimes people found with overdose rush to the hospital right away. Obviously, you got to have a hospital, got the doors open to bring people there. But people are using this animal tranquilizer, xylazine. In the last 2 years, 27 people in Mississippi have overdosed from this tranquilizer. Tranquilizer, slows down the breathing, slows down the heart rate, blood pressure bottoms out, and the systems collapse because they don't have the blood flow anymore. So sometimes this is mixed with fentanyl, sometimes it's not. But great report from this gentleman from the Mississippi Center for Investigative Reporting, Jerry Mitchell, who has combined forces with Mississippi Today recently and works under their umbrella now. Really great. If you can go to Mississippi Today online and read that story, very informative about the number of overdose deaths. 754 overdose deaths since 2021 in Mississippi. Who'd have figured? 754 total. 27 of those using this medication, xylazine. Among black Mississippians, the rate goes from 37 to 165 black Mississippians overdosing since 2018. So from 2018 through 2022, the number went from 37 to 165. Sad story. So Jackson, city of Jackson, it was reported yesterday, makes a final payment to Gray Television. This comes behind an Ethics Commission ruling back in 2021. The broadcast stations and even private citizens, try to get information about what's going on, and they fill out these forms for what are called public records requests. And when you don't, the state law says you got 7 days to provide an answer. And the first thing they do is tell you typically that, we're backed up, we've received your request, we're going to honor your request, but we're backed up, we don't have the ability to get your information, we're going to get to you as soon as possible. And, but, a lot of information provided apparently, as was reviewed by this Ethics Commission. These are the folks that like to meet behind closed doors, don't want the public watching what they do, which it just defies the concept of transparency and ethical behavior. They decided that the city of Jackson had to pay Gray Television, WLBT and others, $170,000 for violating the State Records Act. So that included about a $900 judgment plus the legal fees, which brought it up to $170,000. City of Jackson making the final payment on that. So hopefully that's behind us now, and they're honoring public records requests. Taxpayers have a right to access that information under the law. U.S. District Court Judge Henry Wingate expects, a report I saw on WLBT this morning, expects to place sewer under control of the third-party administrator, Ted Henifin, who, as you know, already has control of the water and the water billing. So apparently a big sewer pipe erupted off Northside Drive recently, got everybody up in arms. Northside Drive. And anyway, the judge is it looks like the judge is gonna put sewer under, and the judge claims that Mr. Henifin is doing an amazing job, difficult work, and is off to a wonderful start helping us get things back under control. So let's just hope that's true, and we just keep on moving on with that. City Council had a meeting yesterday, a lot of up and down votes, but on a motion to reconsider, the council eventually voted to approve claims that include legal expenses. We've reported to you before some ungodly amount, over $400,000 total, but I think that spans 2 fiscal years. As the mayor and the city council were fighting back and forth over the trash collection issue, some $400,000. But so there's concern, and now the auditor is looking into those payments, and concern over the auditor looking into legal expense payments, and some people saying if it's found that the payments were improper, those who voted for the payments could be held liable. So anyway, there was this outstanding bill to the city council attorney, private attorneys, $32,000, $33,000, $34,000, something like that, that was voted on yesterday. And the city attorney that represents both the city council and the mayor had seemingly tried to pull it, basically signaling she didn't think that was a good idea to pay that right now. But in any event, it came back up on a motion to reconsider, and Foote, Banks, and Hartley voted to approve it. Lindsay and Lee opposed it. Grizel had left prior to that vote. He was there for most of the time, but by the time that came back up, interestingly, he was gone, and Stokes, of course, was absent. And we do want to note, too, that just a few days ago, Councilman Stokes' spouse, Larita Cooper Stokes, passed away. She'd had medical issues going back a while, had been treated in Texas, then brought back here, been treated in Houston, then brought back here, and treated. She passed away. We offer our condolences to both the Cooper and Stokes families on the loss. Larita Cooper Stokes was a judge, that is known in this area for really listening to the little guy and not letting people get bullied around, and had an exceptional reputation as a jurist. So God bless the family. We're thinking of you. And the last story for today is this. Right now, today in the Chancery Court, we're hearing about this suit to block HB 1020 from going into effect. There's a deadline that's rapidly approaching where these judges have to be appointed. This bill was overwhelmingly passed by both houses. The governor signed it into law, and as promised, the lawsuits started flying right away, being unconstitutional, usurping the power of the Hinds County voters, and usurping the will of the city of Jackson residents. So judges hearing these suits intended to put a stay on implementing that state law from going into effect, being heard in Chancery Court today. So we'll see what transpires, and we'll be able to report that back to you on Friday. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please give We Believe Digital a call. You have any questions about what we're doing, how we can be helpful to you, any ideas that you have, we'd love to have you join us and talk to our folks here and see what we can do to help you move your brand or product or service along. We'd love to be part of that equation. Take good care of yourselves. Stay safe out there. We'll see you Friday at noon.